It's just here. No, my study at home.
Good evening all. Good evening. Welcome to Wembley Town Council's Finance and Governance Committee on this Wednesday evening, the 23rd of July 2025. It is 7 p.m. British Summer Time. Welcome people that have come in person. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Welcome anyone watching online. That was item one. Item the second being apologies for absence and substitutions. It's like extra time in the game last night. We have apologies from Councillor Joanna Dickinson, who is substituted by Councillor Nicholson, and Councillor Peter Dickinson, who is substituted by Councillor Williams. Thank you very much. And Councillor Furman, who is substituted by Councillor Hope. Thank you, Councillor Hope. Any other apologies of substitutions? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And look, we've got the right number of people. So I propose that we approve those apologies. Are you happy to second that, David?
Yeah, I'm happy to say.
Wonderful. That's 4. Thank you very much. Item 3, declarations of interest. Anything that you would like to declare, Councillor Taylor?
Thank you, Chair. Just item 7, Alluvia's report. I'll declare an interest because you are, as Councillor Hope said, voted on my holiday in September. So I'll abstain from the vote on that item, Chair. So.
Councillor Weller.
Uh,
Thomas's holiday.
Same item, you're not paying for my holiday, but I am a member of the, sadly, you're not paying for my holiday, but I am a member of the Louvier Society and I am a member of the Parish of All Saints, which includes St Edmund's Church, when that grant application comes up. Neither of those declarations are pecuniary.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hope.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. In the, again, non-pecuniary interest in item 7, the Chair is a friend of mine. We serve on another charity together, although neither he or myself will financially benefit from that, but just for clarity.
Thank you very much. Should anyone think of another interest that crops up, do feel free to wave your arm violently before urging yourself. And quietly, yes, thank you, Councillor. Right, item 3, minutes of the last meeting that was held on the 11th of June 2025. I propose that we accept those as a true and accurate record and that they be signed as such. Councillor Northam, you have to second.
Yes.
Wonderful. Votes for? Votes against?
So I abstain.
Wait for it, Councillor Nicholson. An abstention. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Much appreciated. Councillor questions. I don't think we've received any. Does anyone have any burning question they wish to ask? No, thank you very much. Which leads us on to public questions. Mr. Monks of Wessex Folk Festival. Hello, good evening. Welcome again. You'd like to ask for guidance regarding how to submit a valid funding application that complies with the council's grants policy and follows and allows the finance committee to consider the case fairly. Did you want to say a few words?
Okay, yes. Well, this arose because last year we applied for the grant and it didn't get to yourselves. It was deemed to be outside the policy, if you recall. So of course that set up a back and forth of emails to say, well, why not? What is your policy? So and so forth. And I suppose the answer from the officers was that the only way to resolve this question is to present the question to yourselves and not the officers. So we were invited to put this question to. I think the only thing I would say that is that the last time you rejected our application, it was on the grounds that you do not support running costs. And our argument is that essentially an annual festival like this is entirely what I would call OPEX costs and not CapEx costs. There is no capital expenditure. We don't have any assets. So it didn't look very good for us. But I think we've just revisited the whole thing and And there's a slight wobble, I suppose, on your policy and that you do support what's the word I'm looking for, events.
Yeah,
So I suppose,
opportunity rather than wobble, I would respectfully suggest.
okay,
But go on.
so I suppose we're here really for the opportunity to put a grant for our 2026 festival.
Yeah.
I hope some of you came for 25 festival, which was a very successful weekend, and we managed to make Meridian TV on ITV on Saturday night. We believe that we bring quite a considerable number of people to Weymouth.
Yep.
So we believe that it's not only good for the people of Weymouth, but it brings revenue to the town. So we believe we've got a very strong case for council to support this event going forward. And so really that we have to try and find a way of persuading you that it does fall within your policy. So I suppose in a nutshell, that's what our position is.
That's great, thank you. And thank you for being so concise. It's appreciated. Do you want to?
I've got a response, Chair, in regards to our existing policy, which members, I can just read the members.
Helpful to reiterate what the existing policy is, and then maybe we just spend a minute or two spitballing it, if that makes sense.
So during 2024, the Finance and Governance Committee asked the Grants Working Group to review the grants policies, and this work was completed and adopted by full council in October 2024. An important part of the review was to clarify certain criteria for the awarding of grants, and this included making it clear that funding would not be awarded for ongoing revenue costs. The cost of running annual events such as the Wessex Folk Festival, which take place year on year, is considered to be the annual running cost for that event, and as such does not meet the criteria for grant funding under the new policy. Any request for funding for one-off costs for equipment or any other one-off cost would be considered by this committee.
Thank you. So I think, without wishing to repeat ourselves again, I think you're coming close to the same sort of place. The door's open. If you want to have another chat around applying for a grant for something specific other than it costs us X to put this on, can you provide a percentage of X? If you follow me, if it was, I don't know, it's interesting. I suppose to a degree, I don't, in my day job, I don't award grants, but I do help public money go to social enterprises. And so there are absolutely ways of abiding by the ethos and the rules as they stand.
Just for a bit of clarification, Chair, just on that, I think what we are saying in terms of the policy is if there is anything which is a one-off cost which any organisation needed for its running, then we would consider that funding through this grant process. There's obviously a number of events which go on throughout Weymouth, and if there was a change to support one particular one, then obviously that would need to be considered as a policy change as part of this committee, so that everything is transparent there.
That's helpful. Thank you for the clarity. We're not allowed to let you come back on that, I'm afraid. You sort of get to ask your question and then you get to be very grateful that we've deigned to give you some sort of response. And I am saying that slightly tongue in cheek. I hope you appreciate that. Very happy to discuss it afterwards if you want to drop me an email or.
We'll give it some thought, sir.
Yeah, do. Thank you.
Your response,
Chair, may I make a comment? Of course. Thank you very much. I think the question was a good question and it's one I've asked over the years, because I always interpret our policy as we don't want to pay people a wage for carrying out an activity. And that's been my concern and remains my concern, and that's one of the reasons it was put to, for revision. So, and I can see that there might be a difficulty if you as an organizer was claiming money on the pay yourself. But I think the case of where you are hiring an act in order to promote in order for the event to be successful, I think that's something else that we need to consider, whether that's a valid cost, because it is a one-off cost that, it's not an ongoing cost. And obviously that's some of the costs that I would guess you have to cope with as a festival. Thank you, I hope that might help find you away.
Thank you. Councillor Weller.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Mr. Monks, would you like to drop me an email? And we can go through the applications that you make. I'm Councillor Weller,
Thank you.
and we can see exactly how you may comply with our policy or how you absolutely don't. And make it much clearer to you that you're not being singled out for exclusion or anything. Because they're as I'm sure you're aware.
We'll certainly give you drop the email with obviously with the detail.
Yeah, happy to meet you for a cup of coffee or something.
Thank you. Excellent. Item 7, numéro 7, une subvention pour la société Louviers. Yeah. A grant for Louviers Society.
Speak longer.
Do apologise. Ian, would you like to introduce this?
So, this item, Chair, is required to come forward to Finance and Governance on a yearly basis, so that councillors can agree the release of the grant towards the Louviers Society. We have Honorary Alderman, former Councillor Brooks with us, who has kindly done the report, which has been circulated. I'm sure we'll be happy to answer any questions upon that. The amount which has been paid from day one till now has been £850. I think there is a request to up that to 1,000, which there is budgetary provision in that, so wish to not pay to that amount. And I don't know, Honorary Alderman Brooks would like to say anything.
You need me to read the report out?
I think people will have the report. I think if there's just any additional information, or you're just happy to answer questions.
I mean, it's a fairly similar one to the one that I prepared last year. But the only difference is just a request that the grant be increased from £850 to 1,000. Primarily the grant is spent on the French delegation when they come over here. Members of the society pay for their own meals, pay for their own transport, accommodation, and host families from France. So the cost of the grant covers the official reception that we put on each year. And I do have a copy of the invoice from the golf club where we had the reception this year, and that totaled £1,977.50. Now, it's reasonable to assume that roughly half of that would have been paid for by Louviers members, but the rest of it, and that's what the grant actually goes towards. The grant has been set since the town council was formed in 2019, and I think the grant was very similar even in the years before that. So we really haven't had an increase in the grant for, let's say, 6-7 years, and as we all know, things have gone up, particularly in the hospitality industry, and so my request to you this evening is the report is I believe it's under Annex 1A, with the little caveat, respectfully request that you consider increasing the grant from £850 to 1,000, please.
Understood. I think that's very clear. Was it a good spread, Thomas?
Yes, it was quite a
Excellent.
Can't complain about it.
Would anyone like to speak to that? Councillor Hope.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And first of all, thank you to the Honourable Alderman Kevin Brooks for coming along this evening to present this on behalf of the Louviers Society, and of course for all the work that they do. I'm just wondering, is there a reason this comes back every year? If it's in the budget already, and we're saying that we could meet the possible increase of what's in here being requested within the existing budget, is there a reason that this comes back every year? Or can we not just make a decision this evening to say the duration of this council, let's just award the grant at the amount we want to put plus inflation or whatever that be, and just be done with it and stop this coming back every year to this committee's agenda, plus the time it takes the volunteers to write the report, come here and present it.
A good point, or maybe, sorry, do you want to speak to that, to
I mean, just go to Jane for the
the
historic.
machinations of it, right? And,
Where it comes back to, the historic reason why.
If I may, Chair.
yes, please, Steve.
This was a budget line that we inherited from Wellington Port Borough Council. It was decided at the time to maintain that line and not request either the Louvier Society or the Port Victor Society to apply for an annual grant. The reason we asked for an annual report is so that members have some information on what the grant is being used for, can see the wider community benefit, and it puts the Louvier Society on an equal par with those other people receiving grants. So we have an equitable approach to giving public money to community groups.
Can I come back? Yeah, so I'm just a little bit, so there's two aspects of that. There's receiving the annual report back every year with a report what they've done. And I think that can continue coming to committee or full council as an information item. But tonight the recommendation is the committee agree the grant to the Louvier Society. So if it's in the budget, but let's just say for the remainder of this term of council, we agree X amount to be awarded. I think it just makes sense and it's in line with some of the other decisions we've made for the duration of this council. Of course, still receive the annual report.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Weller.
I'd just like to add, that the Louvier Society is not just a friendly society. I think I've said this before. This current year, we're working very hard to do some exchanges between various cultural events, and that will make a big difference. And we have over the years done that sort of thing, and it's finally come to fruition, I think. So I think we do get good value. I think it's very important that we get the report every year, even though we're saying very much the same things each year. It's good because there are always new members and new people listening and reading.
Yep.
And we do want to promote the society for new members to join. They're always very, very welcome. There is actually a treasure hunt next week. Anybody who wants to take part in the Louvier treasure hunt would be very, very welcome.
In Louvier?
Next Monday night in Weymouth.
Okay, thank you.
So that you'll know where you're looking. You would be very welcome to join us on the twinning to Louvier. I'm sure that Honourable Alderman Brooks will nod happily.
We've arranged a fireworks display in the evening.
Yes, we have laid on fireworks following the treasure hunt, which is very good of us.
On the seafront?
On the seafront,
Oh, excellent.
you know, good location.
How convenient.
So, you know, to round off your treasure hunt. But
Yes.
I very, very much endorse. As far as approving or confirming, doesn't make that much difference, but you may feel that, you know, and I'm not gonna die and ditch about it. If it's done now for the rest of the term of this council, fine.
Quick observation before Councillor
I
O'Leary.
was going to propose, so.
Okay, thank you. Are we in, Councillor, we're in effect like an SLA like we have with a couple of other organisations?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be my proposal that we just award £1,000 up till 2029 at the end of this.
Sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds right.
Just querying with the RFO chair what the budget line amount is. I thought it was a single budget line of £850. It is higher.
Right.
If you have the funds.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Northam and noted, thank you.
I think twinning societies help promote the town. And in that respect, I really think twinning is a good idea. I'm a little worried about the level of membership of the society. It only has 33 members, as according to the report. And I'd hope that it increases its membership because that amount of money going regularly to such a small group I think it's quite a lot of money in one area. I can see benefits to this as a town for so doing, but that's a worry to me. I think it needs a stronger membership really to justify that level of investment. So I'd advocate that we don't commit for the longer period, but we commit this year. And if the society can demonstrate that it's a growing society rather than a shrinking society, we have to continue. So that's what I would like to suggest. Whether you want that as a proposal, I'm not sure. What he was to ask Councillor Lewis to speak.
He didn't want to speak, he wanted to propose, but councillor Nicholson did want to
I'm
speak.
reading the very first line of the report that I'm the honorary president. of the Lewis
Congratulations.
Society. Thank you. I think I ought to declare an interest on this one. Non-curiously.
Yeah, that sounds
Just
like
for the record.
sensible. Thank you.
Could I then make a proposal?
There's one already on the table.
I think there was one up there, Chair, which is.
That's the recommendation, Councillor.
Councillor Hope has sort of indicated that I think he was.
I use the word proposed and the chair hasn't called for a second yet.
I'm happy to second.
Excellent.
Sorry, Chair, I'm just a point of clarity. I've always been told that that's an officer recommendation. Until a member proposes it, it doesn't act as a.
Councillor Hope has proposed it,
I missed that, sorry.
and councillor O'Leary has seconded it, and I'm going to suggest we vote on it.
Yes, please.
Vote for
What are we voting for? The 5 years?
another, this year,
Just
another.
1,000. It's
For 4 years.
For 4 years.
Yes.
I've got to, thank you.
Okay. Votes for. Votes against. Abstentions. 1, 2. Sorry, you do your bit. Excellent, that's carried. Yes, you. Thank you.
You should join the all branch.
I learned it from him. Grant applications.
I know.
So we need to do it. Sorry, big one, Q1 financial monitoring. Deputy Town Clerk, please launch us into this one.
Thanks, Chair. It's actually not as big as it is in the rest of the year. This is just the Q1 financial monitoring report. We're only 3 months into the financial year, so it's quite difficult to have any meaningful projections in terms of outturns at this moment in time. We are showing an underspend, potential underspend based on vacancies and the additional income which we are receiving, because the additional interest on our investments we don't build into the base budget because interest rates go down. We'd have to make savings then, so that is good for us to have that that we can use. So we are showing an underspend based on those 2 items. It is a good point of the year just to bring the budgets back into people's focus, because when we come back after the summer recess, we'll be heading straight into the budget setting agenda, for which we will be asking if we do it slightly different this year, rather than just trying to look through the sort of detailed lines. I think it would be, from the conversations we've had previously, we just need to look a bit wider in some of the bigger items. But there's no things that I need to report, Chair, that we need corrective action at this stage. So we're just asking that there will be for the full house.
Thank you very much. So in summary, we are £172,000 better off than we had budgeted for. And there's nothing that concerns us about that.
Half escape.
Half of one particular skate park, essentially. Thank you, councillor O'Leary. Anyone like to speak to that, or are you happy for me to propose it? Councillor Hope.
Thank you very much, Chair. Couple of concerns on this actually, and that is that underspend, because we always seem to have an underspend for vacancies. I know we've got a couple of vacancies, particularly within our project management team at the moment, which will impact delivery of agreed projects as council's gone. Now, I see that you're mitigating some of that by looking where those projects could be managed externally, but that external management surely will have higher costs on the council than using its own workforce. So I've got a little bit of concern there that whilst it paints a rosy picture that we've got an underspend, the actual, this could end up costing us more by actually bringing in external staff to do those works, or could impact our delivery of the projects and aspirations this council's got. The other one, and now forgive me if I've got this the wrong way around, because I sometimes get confused on these sheets, is the green spaces staffing accounts. Am I reading that we've got an overspend already within Q1 on casual staff?
That is correct. Can I just clarify that, Chair? Because there are, the delivery for the green spaces service is being undertaken. They're holding vacancies within the permanent staff. And rather than have those staff for the whole of the year, they are employing casual staff just for the summer period. So you're underspend in the permanent staff, but overspend in the casual staff. So overall, there is a saving to be made by doing it that way.
I think if I may, councillor Hope, we discussed this at our last, or a very similar topic at our last HR committee meeting. And in many ways, by having casual staff rather than temporary, it forms a great way for them to try out the role, us to try out them, and then we can make offers at the end of the season for permanent staff.
Can I just come back as well with one? I think this is a point well made by Councillor Hope, because just to put another slant on that is, it did happen last year and it happened this year. So if the service has been tried using this model for 2 years, then obviously we can't continue to increase that. No, there would be that underspend, and that is actually a very valid point which we need to look at as part of that work which the green spaces have done and how they deliver it, and as part of the budget process to make sure we don't reset for amounts which we do.
That's where I was going on to next. So that's becoming a standard operating model about how we deliver the service and employ staff, and surely the budget needs to reflect that, but absolutely, Deputy Town Clerk's already confirmed that is on the cards for the budget setting.
To your point on cost and delivery, again, I think that's a very good point. In terms of delivery, if we write our contracts of employment well when contracting, that should mitigate that risk. And in terms of cost, yes, consultancy costs more than regular staff. But we've already saved 3 months of regular staff cost. Either way, you're absolutely right to highlight it as a risk and something that we need to keep an eye on. So thank you for that.
If I can come back with something, Chair. The answer I was hoping for was that when the town council are currently advertising for the positions and looking to recruit. Is that the case?
So in terms of the project team, it was part of the discussions which was had at the last HR meeting. And the types of projects which we normally undertake now will not require those somebody with full project management experience. They're not the nature. So if you do the clock, for example, you don't need full project management. You just need somebody to oversee the contract. Slightly different. So what HR committee agreed to do is to use some of that money for the project management to make sure when we need it, we have the appropriate level of project management. And we will see how that goes over the next year. And then we will review that as part of the see how we've got the first 6 months or whether we can bring anything back to HR committee should there be anything which needs to be.
So again, like the green spaces, a change in the way that we're delivering the service or the operational requirement. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? In which case I will propose it worded. I propose that we agree to recommend the Q1 finance report for the period ending 30th June to full council. You happy to second that, Councillor Norton? Yes. Thank you very much. Votes for? Unanimous. Wonderful. Now can I move on to item 9? Thank you very much.
So, is it okay?
Yeah, please do introduce.
So following the review of the grants last year, I think members of this committee will be aware of the new procedures to improve efficiency in that the grants that are circulated prior to the agenda going out will request if there's any issues, comments, or we need to invite applicants, then that is done as part of our process. We haven't received any feedback from members, so there is an assumption that people are happy with the application as they are. I would suggest that we take these in two parts, Chair. So the official recommendation based on that, subject to other councillors coming in, would be to accept the 4 beauty grants and then do the service level agreement afterwards. But obviously there's comments from members here and that may change.
Absolutely. I could just plough on, but that would be very, very silly. So councillor Northern, I know you wanted to speak to this one, and councillor Hope noted. You'll be next. David.
My comment sort of comes, thank you, comes somewhat on the back of the question from the member of the public. In that, I'm always concerned that it's easy to approve a grant, to my mind, where it's got a one-off capital cost. Or where it's paying a higher charge for something. I have trouble when it's paying people money, and certainly the first item includes payment to helpless stewards, artists, at £20 an hour or £30 an hour. In itself, it's not a lot, but it's the principle of whether that's acceptable or not. Similarly, well, perhaps similarly, on the Brave Bold drama, there's 6 days story making at 2,400, and I'm not quite sure what story making means in terms of a cost. So I have that sort of question. First off, my question probably is to our finance and about whether such things are within or without policy.
So precedents have been set previously in terms of events where amounts have been paid to people to enable that event to happen, has been agreed by this committee. If an event is just a one-off event and it's not an annual event, then that won't cost us. It's that one-off which does fit the policy and alludes to the point that Jed made earlier about events. Those events referred to is accepted to have one-off events. So it has been agreed previously that those sort of costs can be funded. And it is within the policy. But it's up to members' discretion if they wish to agree or agree any specific.
Understood.
Okay, so are we going to comment on individuals? Sorry, I might just go back to the chair. Are we going to take each one in turn?
Well,
That wasn't the plan, but there's clearly enough feeling in the room to do that. So yep, absolutely we can. Councillor Hope,
yeah, thank you very much. I think, well, obviously I didn't have the application sent to me beforehand. I was coming in something last, so I did have a couple of questions when reading through them. And another question obviously sparked, as the gentleman earlier discussed, the Folk Festival. And I think, Chair, we probably have missed not to point out that Weymouth Town Council did support the Folk Festival this year with the free use of toilets. So it's important that is recognised that we did support the event.
yep, absolutely.
However, Activate Performing Arts, 4 years on the trot, an event running costs come to us, is before us on the agenda this evening. Artway, how many years? An event running costs coming to us before these this evening. So I've just got some questions on the policy about how these two applications have came forward. When the Folk Festival, which really does fall into probably the same way as the Artway, which is a local, it's cultural, it's activities, it's good footfall, it's, you know, and Activate is something that's different because it's done with a bid of paying the majority, Dorset Council paying some. But they are returning events every year, not one-off costs. So I would be interested to know how those two have got through as an approval. And I know it's probably hard to discuss because we haven't got the Folk Festival application in front of us. But if that criteria was applied, those two wouldn't be here before us this evening.
I think Kim offers some clarity on the thinking behind these, yeah, in so much as previous committee decisions have been based on, although the if I just take Activate Performing Arts, for example, those put on events, they are separate individual events which happen year on year. They can get the funding and those events will be happening. That is the argument which has been used previously. It is up to this committee whether they feel that that is still a relevant argument to have or not, in terms of when they're supporting these types of grants.
Thank you.
Can I come back on that? The Activate one is an event called Dusk Till Dark, ran by the bid. That event stays the same. Yes, the performance changes, but again, I use the Wessex Folk Festival. They have different performers, they have different Morris dances, they have different acoustic sets. So the principle of the performance changes just because of the event. So yeah, and I'm particularly interested in the Activate one because I know previously we voted them down as a committee because we felt that there was too much central costs and not enough general community benefit because businesses were closing by then. I know last year they introduced a more community element and they worked with Weymouth College. This year they are looking at a more community benefit with workshops during the day. But I know Dorset Council have funded them because based on those workshops were conditional that it's for the workshops, not the general event. So yeah, I'm not too happy with Activate. If we're using that rule that disregarded their other organisation, I think Artway and performing, Artway and Activate probably should be here this evening.
Okay, councillor Weller.
Actually, I think both of those events are great for the community. And my problem is more that if we acknowledge that they're great for the community and are worthy of some sort of grant help, and arguably not arguably, it is running costs that we're talking about. Each event each year is slightly different, but so is Wessex. And I think that my problem is that if we say no to Wessex, then we should say no to the others. If we continue to say yes to Wessex, then we should to these, we should seriously consider why we are saying no to Wessex. And I think that's I suspect, Brian, that that's your point, that it's either no, full stop,
Yeah.
or it's yes, but it's not yes for you, no for you. Is that because we don't like folk music? Because that's what arguably we could say. Well, I don't want to support men with bells around their knees dancing about. That seems a little unfair. When we're quite happy to support an event of people causing fair mayhem, fun mayhem, but mayhem through Western Road and down through the town. So I think we need to be consistent with this.
Thank you for that. For the record, I am in favour of folk music and folk festivals. Let the record show.
Set of bells, haven't you?
Councillor O'Leary, you wish to discuss Morris dancing?
Yeah, look, I ain't the most cultured person ever, you know. And I think, you know, but these things are good for the town. If people want to go to them, that's absolutely fine. The question I have, and the question we have to look at, is it down to the taxpayer to pay for certain things or not? And looking at the Activate one, £3,500 of that is for accommodation for artists. I don't think that's the role, I don't think it's for the taxpayer to fund those types of expenses. That's my opinion. I mean, if that, you know, look, it's, you know, art's a bit like puberty and it's in the eye of the beholder. You know, I chair a very small community group and put on loads of events. And to me, as a councillor and a resident, when I look at community grants, I think of lunch clubs. I think of, you know, Christmas events for families, etc. You know, paying £3,500 for some artists to be in travel lodges, not exactly my idea of what we should spend the ratepayers' money on. So I can't support that one or Artway. So it's a lot of money to pay everybody.
No, thank you for that, much appreciated. I think that I completely understand where you're coming from. I think councillor Weller makes, and councillor together make a very good point that we do perhaps need to have another look at how we're interpreting that policy. To councillor O'Leary's point, that there is also we can only approve the people that apply. So if people don't apply for grants, whether it's through the, there's not criticism what you're saying, but I think it's worth us feeding back to the town at large that if you want grant funding, then you absolutely do need to apply. Please do. But it does feel like there has been a little inconsistency in how we've applied that over the last 12 months or so. Albeit our policy has changed from last year, so that might be where particular applications have fallen through the cracks. I don't know. Maybe we've just got it wrong. Let's be honest. That should make a paper. So shall we vote on each of them in turn, or?
Can I make a comment on
I
the
think
first
we're going
one?
to, yes.
Yeah, okay. On the first one, it says that the total for the whole project is £8,560. And it says that they've raised £8,200 from other sources, not all of which have been confirmed, but including source accounts of 5,000. So if we're being asked to pay 5,000, that would take the total up to 13,200. I find the numbers somewhat inconsistent, but I found that, whether I'm misinterpreting it.
For which one was that?
This is the one we've all been talking about, the Activate, which, by the way, just while I'm here, I really enjoy Activate. I think it's a wonderful thing. I just would like us to be consistent again.
It's the 187.
I thought the total was 108.
So there's 108,000 mentioned for one place, but when you add up the 5 events, they come to £8,560. And then section 6 talks about how else are you funding the project. It says we're getting another 8,200 somewhere else. Is that the right one?
Okay, so give me go up to the top and just top those. That's art wave, not art wave. Councillor Brown.
I do apologise.
So looking at the Activate one, when I agree with your point, Councillor O'Leary, about taxpayers paying for accommodation for artists, but when I look at the other funding that's attracted from the Arts Council England and other places, it feels like if we're paying £5,000 to something that costs more than 10 times that much, that feels like a bargain, really, like almost like seed funding. Feels like we're paying money to attract, as part of a bigger thing that attracts other money to the town. That feels more worthwhile.
No, that's a good point. I
Scrap the Arts Council.
That's not within our gift, I don't think.
No, not this evening, certainly. And maybe I'm on my own in this point of view, but I want to be awarding money to local organisations via this committee. I think it's a good thing, albeit there need to be checks and balances, and we need to discuss those applications. So it is working. Councillor Bell.
My view is we've got organisations who in good faith have put in applications. The fact they've come to this stage via our officers shows they match the policy we've put in place. I feel it would be a bit almost unfair if we now change our plans. Now we see what the reality of our policy we've put out there is. A lot of, speaking to the Activate Performing Arts, I agree with the point Councillor Brown makes. We're making, in the grand scheme of the total amount for that project, a relatively small injection of funds relative to the total, with quite a bit of benefit to locals. We have a grants policy to do exactly that, to create benefit for locals. Now, I am inclined to agree that paying for accommodation doesn't sit right, but maybe that's where we then, post this evening, we look at policies again. Because if our officers feel that meets the policy as we've set it, if I was the person making that application, I kind of wouldn't know quite how to react to a policy that changes on the fly as we go along. So I agree with the sentiment, absolutely. But whether it needs looking at post this round of applications, I think for me that feels fairer to the organisations who put time in.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to any of the applications? Are there still applications that people don't feel they can support? Yeah, okay. In which case, then I suggest that we go through them one by one. Councillor Hope.
Just on the Activate one, it's worth pointing out that they are a company. Okay, they are not community organisations such as Parkway or Folk Festival. You know, they've got paid members of staff, they've got professional bid writers, and that's why they can pull in the money. That's why they've ticked all the boxes of the grant application and got it through to this fund. That's not to discredit, they've done what they need to do, and I'm sure that bid writers earning their salary and more, otherwise they wouldn't have them on the books. But I think it is important to realise that that is the position with Activate. And what I will say is, as a company that has delivered an activity 4 years on the trot, which has been very good for the town, we should probably look, if this is going to continue, and again, I know it's subject to the bid we put in, should probably look at putting them on SLA and just, because if we want to support calendar events like this and have the security for them to keep coming back, and that seed funding, if they know they've got 5,000 from us each year, put on an SLA, put on an agreement for the term, because then they know they've got that pot to go out and attract more money to bring into Dorset as Weymouth on Chamber. But that still doesn't put my mind at rest about this is a reoccurring event, and they are where they are here when we discarded another organisation this evening from being here.
Yeah, well, we haven't discounted them, they applied previously, but I take your point.
Their event's gone, so that's it, I can.
Councillor Leary.
Yeah, sorry, just a point of principle. The Arts Council, We Are Weymouth and Sport England are all public bodies that are operating with public money, and I think putting them on an SLA just becomes another complacency of more public money being put into an event. At the end of the day, it's taxpayer funded. If it was that viable, there would be other ways of funding. It's a lot of money, £108,000 a year for this event. The majority of which comes from taxpayers in one way or another, whether it be through the Arts Council centrally or for us locally, so I can't support that, I'm afraid.
Thank you.
Thank you. Could I just have another clarification? I believe the 108,000 isn't just for the event in Weymouth. What we're being asked to contribute is 5,000 to the event happening in Weymouth. Well, I think the 108 includes the event going to other sites. Am I wrong?
I think so.
And Portland, perhaps.
I'm on their website and it looks like there are different, they're doing different events nationally. It looks like the Sonnet of Samsara is just Weymouth, I think.
I understood previously that they toured this event across various places, and the highlight, the final highlight, is coming to Weymouth.
Yeah, just on that about touring around, they've, in my role at English Heritage as a volunteer, they've been up at Maiden Castle before actually. I believe twice they've been up there as well, so they do tour around the country as far as when I saw the Maiden Castle.
But I think that's with different events. If you look at, if I'm on their website right now, and the stuff they're doing in Christchurch and Moors Valley seems to be different events. Anyway, I mean,
Should we vote on them one by one?
shall we?
Thank you. But that's not indeed, you can stop that. In general, first up. Activate Performing Arts. Offers a recommendation is 5,000. I'm going to propose each of them in turn if anyone.
I'd like to second that one.
Okay, thank you very much. So votes for.
Five, 6, 7.
Votes against. Abstentions. Thank you very much. We're good to carry on, Nikki. Sorry.
Yeah.
You typing furiously. Brave Bold Drama, 4,950. I would propose that one. Would anyone like to second it?
Oh, sorry, this was, I thought we were still discussing each individual one.
Sorry.
I thought we were going to discuss each individual one. You asked, have anybody got further comments to make on any of the applications, and
Yeah.
nodded and said yes. So we shouldn't move to the vote surely straight away.
We voted on the first one, now we're going to vote on the second one. We haven't.
And discuss the second.
We were discussing all of them.
We
Right,
will.
I thought we were discussing them specifically.
Each one.
Some of the things will go across all of them, but something will be specific, I think.
Okay. For clarity, next time we do it, we'll be discussing all of them before we go to a vote.
This
Because,
time,
no. Future meetings, we'll discuss all of them because our starting point will be bearing in mind that the officers have received no questions from the councillors to highlight these. And I appreciate that there are substitutes and that does make things different, a little different. Our starter for 10 is we will take all the applicants and see, and if we've not heard any feedback from the councillors, we're going to vote for them en bloc. But we're not doing that this evening. So would anyone like to speak about the application for £4,950 from Brave Bold Drama? Councillor Webb.
And I apologise because I should have asked this question sooner, so I do apologise. They do say how, and they itemise how they're going to spend each of their sums of money, which I think is really useful. And it does seem to be involving our local children in various schools. I'm pleased with that. But they also list the other people they've had grants from without saying how much money that was. So it just would be useful to know how much money they're actually budgeting every year for their events. You know, if they're getting hundreds of thousands in, one wonders why they need our money. That's not to say that we shouldn't be giving it to them, but you know, it's nearly £5,000 if they're getting 250,000 from these other organisations. You wonder whether they shouldn't be being a little bit more circumspect with their money. That's my only comment really, and I really should have made that question to the officers in advance so they could have answered my question. And I don't expect you to make up an answer now because clearly that would be wrong and unfair, but it is a comment.
Okay, Councillor O'Leary.
Yeah, is Bolt on the application form, Bolt Drama doesn't list an address, says address supplied. Are they a local organisation or are they a regional or national organisation?
right, find that out from.
It says the address supplied. I wondered if you had it to hand, sorry. As opposed to, is this a local organisation? I've never heard of it myself.
It seems pretty Weymouth specific when you read the stuff, isn't it?
Yes.
But then mentions the city of Bristol, I think, or something, and it said about Bristol, I can't remember the details.
So the details when it comes.
Yeah.
Councillor Norton. Councillor.
Yeah. So, this one has as its first listed how are you spending the money, 6 days story making at Bingham Primary, Beechcroft Primary and Weymouth Library. I've no problem, I mean, I think again, it's a good event to be taking place, an activity with children and all the rest of it. I'm just not sure why 3 events cost £2,400 at the schools. What's the money for? I could hazard a guess, but it's not clear.
Okay, thank you very much.
So is it, and I apologise for not having asked this question previously. I wasn't aware of that instruction, being a new member to the committee, that instruction was in place. I would have raised it if I'd known. And I think this is quite an important question because I don't know what that £2,400 is for. I can understand the other numbers.
Thank you. They are based in Preston. The Dorset one, not Lancashire, but Lancashire.
They do.
I never checked one.
That the southwest region.
Yeah, the lady is not to tell you.
Never a lady.
You're welcome. Councillor Nicholson.
I was just concerned that this item 6 hasn't been completed at all on that form. And also, where else? There was somewhere else. Sorry, because I'm subbing, I haven't read this one. But item 6 isn't completed on the form.
Just very quickly, Councillor Nicholson, it's because the total cost of the project is being funded through.
Right.
Councillor Sloan.
Yeah, thank you very much. Councillor Nicholson sort of let me into that one because it was a question I was going to ask is, I generally always feel a little bit on the edge about organising, applications that are asking 100% funding from us. I always think it shows good willing that, it makes us feel that we get more for our money when external funding is also coming in to match fund what we're giving or top up what we're giving. So I sit on the edge of this one. I think it could potentially be a good event. Again, we don't know, or activity, could engage a lot of school children, but it's something we don't know. And I'm just wondering, bearing in mind, they say 6 days story making, I think, in Beechcroft Primary School, Weymouth Library. I presume this isn't happening now till later on in the year. The schools will just finish for the summer. Or is it already happened? And in that case, I would feel again nervy around funding a project that's already been delivered.
Should I make a suggestion that perhaps on this one, rather than vote for or against it, that we ask for some clarification and bring it to either on, well, there are a couple of options, and let's talk it through. Either we get the clarification and discuss it again at our next meeting. I cannot remember when the next finance and governance meeting is, sometime in September.
24th of September.
Thank you very much, Nick, much appreciated. Or we agree what we would like clarified, what would be acceptable answers, and let the officers go away and see if they can get that clarification. Does anyone have a particular preference either way? Councillor Hope.
I would say deferral to the next meeting and come back. Again, because they say have benefited from Weymouth Library and Beechcroft Primary. Does make me think this has already happened. So I think we just need clarity, is this a go forward project? Does our policy actually say we're not allowed to fund projects that have already happened?
So, I think it does.
Yeah, so I think we need that clarity.
Would you like to propose that we ask them to clarify their application? And we defer making a decision on it until our September meeting?
Yeah, and I would say that they are getting finances from other areas, things like insurance, because that's not covered on here. So again, they probably need to look at what the true cost is and whatever funding they're getting externally.
Okay, well, I'm happy to second that. Shall we vote on that?
Could I add one thing and the point of clarity? On a lot of these applications, it's evident that people are putting in their own time to make these events happen. And I think that's part of the hidden cost of these events, and it ought to appear perhaps under item 6 that a number of volunteers are giving up their time and it's worth this amount of money. That will help.
Voluntary hours.
Voluntary hours, thank you. Because I think that would help me with my concern that this 6 day story making is paying some money per day as a wage. So if that could be part of the clarification, are you happy to accept that proposal?
That's you, councillor Hope.
I think that's an extra, if the councillor Northern needs that clarification to make a decision in September, then yeah, we need to add it in. That's fine.
Thank you. Happy to vote on that then? Votes for deferring, yeah, and clarification. Yeah, from full house. Excellent. Artway. The recommendation is for £5,000. Would anyone like to discuss or make a point around this one?
I kick off if I may then.
Yes, carry on.
It's part of the Towns of Culture. And therefore I think we should be supporting it. They do have funding coming in from elsewhere, and therefore, given accepting the point which needs clarification downstream about it being an annual event, this wouldn't be an annual event under Towns of Culture, but it might be an annual application from Artway in some respect. So I would be largely in favour of this.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Doesn't look like it. Would you like to propose it, councillor?
I'd like to propose it. Thank you very
Excellent.
much.
I'm happy to second it. Votes for? Votes against? One, and abstentions? Thank you very much. Building a bit of steam here. Fourth, St Edmund's Church. It's a recommendation £1,634. Would anyone like to speak to this one?
I'd like to propose that we move it forward. It seems eminently covering replacement of old stuff with new stuff, and therefore it just keeps this group going from a
criteria, isn't it?
material point of view. Thank you.
Excellent, councillor Leary, is
This
this,
is my sort of application, it's practical, it's simple, it actually does something as opposed to just, they're not full of advanced stuff, so yes, I'm very much happy.
excellent, we have a proposer, a very excited seconder. Votes for, please.
Oh,
Wonderful. Okay, and then the fifth item within the grant applications is a service level agreement application for discussion, which is for the Lantern Trust. So that's £5,000 per year for the next 3 years. Quick question, why 3 years and not 4?
I think, Chair, it may well be the fact that they've previously had a service level agreement with us for 3 years, which has been agreed. So they're asking for that 3 years to be renewed for another 3 years, which is to use to provide the housing officer to that interest.
Okay, councillor Head, for you, did you to speak? Far away.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just wonder how many applications are going in for SLAs now, because remember setting them up originally, and proposing this because they were applying for a grant every year. We said, look, we want to support this, everyone agreed, and we moved forward. How many organisations have we got going under SLAs? What is the budget?
So the budget is 25,000 per year. We've already agreed £5,000 for the CAB to have an SLA up until the end of this term. So this will be the second.
And that leads me to my second one, that did they request 5,000 or is it the maximum amount they can go for?
That is a very good question. They requested 5,000. But it does raise the question whether there is actually a limit. But down somewhere, it always used to be 5,000 in line with the grant.
Because I would say that we should probably look at raising it if it's been 5,000 for so long. Their costs are going up, the need is growing, and I think they do such a fantastic service for the town. I would suggest that we actually look to maybe increase that, even if it's only up to 5,500 this year.
No, that's a good point, councillor Hope, thank you. At the moment, the policy as it stands is that we can't apply for more than 5,000. But there are a couple of things there. Any policy is open to revision, and the policy is designed for grant applications rather than SLAs per se. They are different. You should definitely look at it, and the work they do for our town, as you rightly say, is absolutely superb. I would suggest, don't take this as me proposing, but at this point, but my suggestion would be that we agree in principle funding them for the rest of this council, like we just said, rather than 3 years, or at least £5,000 per annum at this stage, and then we look at what we can ask the officers to look at what we can do for our next meeting. Follow that. Bear with me just a moment. Ian.
I've just sort of clarity there. I think the principle which has been alluded to is to say to people coming back, we will say it for an amount year on year, and that means that it didn't affect the grant, but it's just stopped them coming back to you when you policy. It's £5,000 is the top level. Now, out of all of these discussions tonight, apologies, just going just slightly on piece. It does raise a question of whether we need to reconvene the grants working party to look at these areas again, and to look also at whether we want separate guidance for SLAs as well as the grants. So that's just something in the next meeting for us to think about, but it does highlight a lot of things which I think we may need to revisit.
Absolutely, thank you. Councillor O'Leary.
No, I'm happy with what you said, Chairman.
Thank you, councillor Weller.
Sorry, was councillor?
No, you can carry on.
I would, if you made that a proposal, I would certainly second it with the recommendation that we do a review and look at that for the future. none of us doubt the work that the Lantern do, and we want to continue supporting them. And it may be that we add in an inflationary element to that or whatever, but yes, do it now and look at it for the future.
Thank you, councillor North.
Sorry, actually, my question was very much like councillor Willard's. How long actually have we had that limit of £5,000? Because inflation has gone rampant in the last few years.
So traditionally, should I mention?
Yeah, please do.
The limit previously was 3,000, that's been up to 5,000 because previous policies have stated that it was 3,000 apart from exceptional circumstances, and it was that people's interpretation of exceptional circumstances was quite a grey area, so we've upped it to 5,000 for the current policy. But yeah, and all those things about inflation would be built in the current.
Thank you. Councillor Nicholson also,
I'm sorry,
but I just still.
I'd just like to raise the point that I really think the Lantern does a brilliant job, and councillor Hope's idea of giving them a bit more, I think it's a little bit dangerous for things to come to us and we up the amount, because you get somebody who's very vocal and speaks very well on behalf of the charity, they might get a little bit more each time. So I think we ought to, as councillor Weller said, review our policy, set our level, and then I think we need to keep to that, because they could always come back and say, thank you very much, you have agreed the 5,000, could you possibly this year add 500 on, and I would see, or whatever, and I wouldn't have any problem with that. But I think to have the discretion of changing a figure that a charity has put into us, or an organisation has put into us for a grant, would be a bit of a slippery slope.
That's a fair point. Thank you. Councillor Northam.
Thank you. Again, the numbers, I have a little bit of trouble with. In section 5, they talk about the core costs being 74k, the Weymouth Town Council grant being 15k, add it up to get the 89k. I can do that sum, but it's actually a question is, how else are you funding your project? And what I'd like to see is whether Dorset Council are funding this. This is an area of work, and I think they do fund it, but I'd like to know how much they're funding it by. And it may be that it's difficult to break it out in the total amount. Is it further on? Sorry.
It's under number 10.
Right, okay, sorry.
Done.
Yeah, okay, that answers it. It wasn't where I was expecting to see it, sorry.
Okay.
So this number, it's a really important bit of work, and I'm pleased that Dorset Council are funding it to that extent, because I really think this is Dorset Council's primary concern. I'm pleased that we're supportive, but we should be secondary in our support to this.
Thank you very much. I will propose then that we go with the councillor recommendation, but tweak it slightly. Then we go for 4 years, so it takes us to the end of our council, and that we review our policy and look at whether we think it's correct for an SLA to follow the same pattern as other grants. Councillor Weller very kindly already did that, but thank you very much.
Chair, can I just check the policy doesn't tie us into 3 years, like when it was set up, it was always a 3-year SLA.
I think that's being removed if it was there. President was setting out for CAB, which was agreed for the full term of this council.
I'll have to have your closing.
Thank you. Votes for? Sorry. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Good debate. So much on. Item 10. Health and safety policies. Ian, would you like to introduce these? Don't you dare.
So, the health and safety falls under this committee in terms of overseeing it. we've done a lot of work over the last few months, Assistant Town Clerk and I and Jane and part of the SLT, reviewing and going through all of our health and safety documentation and practices. We work with Prona, who are our advisors on HR and health and safety, and they have kindly supplied us with these documents which ensure that we comply with all the legal requirements which we have. The handbooks to enhance what we have in place for our staff to refer to. So we think that they're a good addition, but we just need those approved. One point which I would just mention is there's the Safety Representations and Safety Committee Regulation 77 and the Health and Safety Consultation with Employees Regulation of 1996, which I'm not clear, I've got them written down in front of me. Which means we do need to periodically consult with staff on stuff. So just to add that these documents will be reviewed as part of a new group which we're setting up with staff, and any further amendments will be brought back to this committee.
Thank you. So we're not reinventing the wheel, is the general gist here, and we are helping to cover the council in a way that is very typical throughout public sector and certainly in the private sector. Councillor Weller, you wanted to speak on this?
Very, very briefly, I think all the policies are excellent. Yeah, as you would expect them to be with the advice that we've received. Just want a confirmation that where those members of staff don't have access to emails and so on, they either are provided with a hard copy or they know where they can go and refer to a hard copy should they need to. And where appropriate, they are signing that they've seen and understood the policy, and that we're then keeping a record of the fact that they have signed, that we've got their signature on record to do that. I'm sure the answer to all of that is yes, but I just wanted to confirm it for the record as much as anything else. So hard copy available where it's kept so that they know, and that their signatures are recorded. Otherwise, well done, terrific piece of work.
Thank you. Councillor Hope.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think generally all good. My only concern is I just want some clarity around the Weymouth Town Council private driver's handbook, because it seems a copy and paste almost of the highway code. Did we write this, or did Corona write this? If we paid Corona to write this, is it a necessary policy because it's their own car, they're driving it? And I'm just a little bit concerned why we've got this policy that is extracting the highway code.
So fair point.
Talking from a health and safety background also.
Yeah. So yeah, in terms of it's slight difference, it's a handbook rather than policy, which is just there to help, and it's supplied as best practice by Prona's suggestion that that's available for people who use their private cars in the course of their work.
Second one, following on from Councillor Weller's points there, is are we going to be doing any training around any of these handbooks? As Councillor Weller said, it's great having a handbook, it's great having a policy. Do they read them all the time? Do we all read them all the time? Let's answer honestly. So I'm just wondering whether or not we will put together a short 5-minute voiceover video that they have to watch and say they've done it to allow them to drive one of our vehicles or anything like that.
You can do the voiceover?
No, we'll get Councillor Budden to do it.
Please do, of course.
So we've already been working with managers on a whole raft of health and safety things. We will work with managers, and we will work as part of our staff meetings to ensure that these are all rolled out and staff understand the implications and principles which supply. And as part of that, as Councillor Weller says about getting them to sign them so that they understand the importance and they've seen them, and we know that they've seen them and have them. So we will work with staff to make sure that they do understand them.
And have another, just one more matter of clarity. You said that handbook, not policy. There's a very first point in there is a policy statement. So if we don't say their policy, that shouldn't be a policy statement, or is that an extract from our policy statements that are already in existence?
So that will be a good question. That will be part of one of those is the health and safety policy and procedure. So we will be just emphasising the policy which is now in those handbooks, so people know whenever they go to those handbooks, they can see what the actual policy.
always dangerous doing it that way, because if you up issue one, you've got to up issue both. Yeah, I'll just refer back, but that's how I do.
I won't ask if you're happy, but does that answer your question?
I'm never happy, Chair.
Fair enough. Thank you. Anyone else like to speak to this one?
Not
In which-
happy.
We note that.
Yeah, Councillor O'Leary is happy.
Please minute that.
His medication has hit the right balance. We are all good. We'll have to find out what it is afterwards and share it. The proposal from the officers is that the committee recommends to full council the adoption of those 5 health and safety documents. I propose that we do that. Thank you very much, Councillor Norton. Votes for. Votes against. Abstentions.
I haven't read it, but by the time I realise it's subbing, I'm not going to vote for something I don't have read.
Thank you very much. Item 11 are the information items, which are the actions from the previous meetings for us to note. Of which there are none. Councillor Weller,
Can
before
I
I.
just make a very, very quick comment, and it's an urging, an exhortation almost. White Community Centre lease has been outstanding, I think, now for 6 years. I would love to see a green tick against that very soon, because it's preventing them from applying for not grants from us, but much bigger grants. Currently that they're working very hard to get the community centre really, really strong and viable again. They're doing a terrific amount of work, but they're doing that with moving buckets around the floor, one roof.
That's Runnymede Lane.
Runnymede Lane,
Yeah.
yes. Please let me see a green tick against that as soon as possible.
Thank you. And then the other item to note is our future meeting schedule. Excellent, that's the spirit, Councillor O'Leary. At which point at 2016 meeting closed. Thank you very much for attending. Thank you if you watched online or are watching it back.
Thank you.